All right, guys. Just after go time here, I see some good friends joining here today. Derek, I think we're in for a treat. All across the country. Welcome, everybody. I can start things off. We'll take a couple minutes just real quick to set the day's events up, but welcome, you guys. I'm Gary Usher from Volutone here on the West Coast, sunny California, joined by our the best trainer in the world, Webb in North Carolina. But welcome, you guys, today. We've put together how this came about was obviously before the pandemic. Derek would have been here in California training our Volutone dealers with an exciting 4-hour class. And we were left with the challenge to try to put OvrC and many of its features into a 1-hour webinar. So that's the challenge. So Derek is going to be ultra speedy today and trying to bounce around from topic to topic, but it's quite compelling. We did this 2 days ago and it's quite a class. So you guys are in for a treat. I want to remind you that I will be recording this class. I'm going to send everybody on this email a follow-up email. There's links. There's also a link to this video. So you can obviously pass that to your team, which we suggest, because getting Derek in the same room with us is something that we look forward to twice a year. So now this might be an added benefit that we get him. But no, the Q&A sessions that will obviously follow is incredible. We're really fine-tuning. All of us are still learning the benefits of not only OvrC, but many parts of the Snap AV family. And even with my team, we still need the the updates and how to really convert and the feature sets of this marvelous ecosystem. So I welcome you guys. Thank you guys so much. I am Gary Usher from Volutone, but I also am representing all of the Snap locals. And what that means is that's MRI, all my friends from MRI and AllNet and Custom Plus. We're all together for you guys. This is a national webinar right now. So please go back to your prospective distributors' websites because we all have certain specials. I know, for instance, I've got the Lutron OvrC piece currently running on special, which is a quite compelling piece. We've been selling for over a year now. That's a perfect opportunity for the lighting guys to hop over and be involved in OvrC. So there's lots of integrated sales tactics that we all can use. But for the dealers, thank you guys so much. Let's get started here. We definitely will be fielding your questions throughout. We're scheduled for an hour, but we're prepared to go however long you need us to be. So with that, and all of us from the Snap family, from the Snap local family, thank you guys. Derek, thank you guys so much for putting this together for an hour. I know it's a lot, but it's your stage, buddy. From all of us, let's do a virtual round of applause. All right, Mr. Derek Webb.
Thanks, Gary. Welcome, everyone. Excited to be here with you guys again. Like Gary was saying, I was supposed to be out there in sunny California last week and this week, enjoying the Southern California weather and being out there with you guys and training dealers out there in the California market. And to be fair, I was supposed to be all around the country this year, not just in California, right? And so we're doing the best we can to interact and to interface with you guys as much as possible. By providing these webinars today. And, we're going to continue to do that as long as we can for you guys. And so real quick here before we get started, if you have any audio problems with your Zoom client today, please use the Zoom options in the bottom left-hand corner there to test your audio settings. There is no live microphone for the attendees today. We're just doing Q&A. So if you have questions during the webinar, please use that Q&A panel. I've already seen a question or two come in there already. Any and all questions are encouraged, guys. So use that Q&A panel. If you guys want to ask a question, go ahead and test it out if you want to ask it right now. The way that we like to do these webinars is we don't want these things to be this long, drawn-out, scripted type thing. It's boring. We know how education works, and we know how virtual education works. And one of the biggest challenges is that you guys, if you're sitting at home right now, you have a lot of distractions, and we want to make sure this thing is relevant to you. So ask questions. You're going to drive the direction that we take this thing today. That Q&A panel will look something similar to this, and so you guys can easily use that to get your questions through. if you want to, comment on my looks, comment on my background, my room, feel free to do that as well. We're going to have a good time with us today, guys. So Gary kind of introduced me before. For some of you guys that may not know me, my name is Derek Webb. I am one of the technical trainers at SnapAV. I've been with SnapAV for almost 8 years now, about 7.5 years with the company. I started in tech support years and years ago, did that for about 5 years, and now I've moved into training full time. I travel the country and train on everything from OvrC to Arachnus to Luma, Moip, Wattbox, whatever it may be. I'm doing all the training on a lot of those product lines there. So our goal today is to continue to educate you guys on the OvrC product line. OvrC is the most important platform that we have at SnapAV today, period. It's more, it's unfortunate that we're in this position we are in today, right? But today, OvrC's only become more important as a platform for you to manage your customers remotely. More and more of your customers aren't wanting you in their homes, but they still want you to support them. They still are expecting you to support them, but they don't want you to walk into their house, and rightfully so. That makes sense. And so my goal today is to teach you more about OvrC as a platform and the value of that platform, how to actually take some of this value and deploy it right this second. My goal is that when we end this webinar, you guys should be able to go into your OvrC account if you're using it today, or set up a new one if you're not using it, and deploy some of this functionality right now. So we're going to go through some of those examples and how you can empower your customers and empower your business to do more of this today. And a big piece of how we're going to show that is using our power management products with Wattbox. So those are our two goals, showing you how to use OvrC properly and how to utilize some of the actual platforms for it right now, and then obviously how you guys can use Wattbox to give your job more power, right? The pun was intended there. We want to give you guys more power over your jobs, and Wattbox does just that. So like I was saying, we're going to start here with OvrC. OvrC is, like I was saying before, the most important product at SnapAV today. It is our most heavily invested platform in terms of what we're doing to make this thing really powerful and really strong for all of you guys. But OvrC isn't just a device control tool. It isn't just a tool for you to manage a few things here and there. It is the ultimate tool to manage all of your customers. That's the key you always want to continue to reinforce. It's not meant to just control a Wattbox or control a Luma IP camera. It can, on the very small scale, do just that if that's all you want it to do, but we really want it to be a tool for you to manage everything that you're doing across your entire business when it comes to the devices that are being installed out there. And so it's a growing platform. We're going to break down a few of the pieces today, show you guys some examples. But one thing I always like to start off with and talking about is the scale of the platform and how it's going to continue to grow. So OvrC today is being used by about 10,000 integrators in every single month. Those numbers are going up slightly as we see more people having to work from home, be forced to do remote troubleshooting and remote support. We're on over 300,000 job sites across the world, not just in the United States. We're actually in about 84 different countries now around the world, adding about 6,000 locations every single month. And we recently eclipsed the 8 million device mark as well. So we have a lot of stuff living on this platform. We're powered by Amazon Web Services, so we're not going to, curl up into a ball and fail when too many of you guys start using it. We challenge you guys to use it more, to keep and growing this platform and use it to build your business around. That's one of the biggest reasons I talk about this, is that we want you to have confidence that this platform is powerful, that you can trust it, and that you can build your business around it as you continue to grow into how you use this thing going forward there. So that's just my kind of quick spiel there in the beginning. Utilize OvrC. It's a great platform in terms of the backbone of it. But really the big piece I want to start with today is defining the first two pieces of OvrC that are very unique to SnapAV. The reason they're unique to SnapAV is that we have the luxury in this industry of being a product or a hardware manufacturer and a software developer. We develop the hardware. We manufacture all these different hardware brands you see here, from Arachnus networking products, routers, switches, access points, Wattbox IP power, binary media over IP solutions, Luma IP cameras and surveillance recorders, Episode IP amplifiers, Sunbright outdoor IP TVs. We manufacture all this hardware, and we also develop OvrC in-house completely. Because we have both of those in place, it allows us to integrate our platform together in a way no one else in the industry can do. There are some people that are trying. We have some competitors that are out there in the OvrC space, but today OvrC is the #1 preferred remote management platform in the CDM market right this second, and no one has the scale at which SnapAV does to manufacture the hardware to integrate into this solution there. So it gives us a lot of really in-depth and useful tools that you won't find elsewhere. And what that means is that our hardware, the second it steps foot onto a job site and is plugged into a network, it is OvrC enabled out of the box. And so if you look at on my camera there, you'll see all of our hardware that's OvrC enabled has that little OvrC logo on it, letting you know that that product is OvrC enabled right out of the box. It's ready to go. Nothing else extra has to happen. You don't have to buy a separate device to give you some type of portal into the OvrC cloud. Our hardware is OvrC ready out of the box if it has that OvrC logo. We have over 250 SKUs living in OvrC natively today. We call this OvrC native integration. Native integration gives you obviously the very first thing, notifications if your device is going online or offline. It's giving you configuration over certain levels of settings in the device. Depending on the complexity of the device, you get more settings on those devices, right? Our Wattbox IP power products, we're going to demo those later. Every setting you need lives in the cloud for that device. It's all there. You don't have to visit a local UI. You can do all that in the cloud. Our Arachnus managed switches, right? Our layer 2 managed switches, they have a lot of settings, right? We can't put all those in the cloud. We're going to try our best, but we can't put them all in there. So we give a lot of really good information, a lot of really good control. Every device in the native ecosystem can be power cycled globally or on a per port basis if that device supports that. So for example, Luma IP cameras, you can power cycle that entire IP camera within the OvrC ecosystem. But you look at, say, a Arachnus PoE switch, you have the ability to power cycle individual PoE ports. Or if you look at, say, a Wattbox, obviously you can reboot individual outlets. Every device can be power cycled globally. Some devices have even more in-depth granular control as well. And then a big one is firmware updates. You have the ability to push remote firmware updates to all of our native devices in the OvrC ecosystem to make your life much, much better, much easier at the end of the day as well. Firmware updates are a big deal. All of our products come out of the box that are OvrC enabled with firmware updates available on day one. We do not want you to have to roll a truck just to update a firmware on a device. The ultimate goal of OvrC is to reduce truck rolls to the point where we want to get rid of them. 80% of tech support calls can be solved via a firmware update. Or sorry, not firmware update. 80% can be solved via power cycle. If you can do that power cycle remotely, and that's saving 80% of your truck rolls, that's money back in your pocket. That is money that can be spent on other things. That is time back in your day that can be spent earning more money on other things. That's the ultimate goal. Reduce those truck rolls. And so part one of the OvrC ecosystem is that native integration. The second piece I always like to start discussing is OvrC Home. Mainly because OvrC Home is an extension of the native OvrC ecosystem. OvrC Home is an end user application that gives your end user, your clients, some of the same control that you have when you're using OvrC every single day. It is a tool that you give to your client. They can't go get it on their own. They can go to the App Store and find it, download it, but they have to have a login that you give them to get access to it. But it gives your client some of the same control that you're going to have. The very first piece that it does for you is you have the ability to create unique remote reboot power cycle scenarios for your clients. So you see the examples right there: reset Wi-Fi, reset Apple TV, reset satellite. What this is doing is it's giving you the ability to create that button, right? You've probably already had those clients in the middle of all this that are calling you 2, 3, 4 times a week to always reset their Apple TV or always reset their satellite box. What if next time they called you, you're able to say, hey, remember the OvrC Home app that I gave you? Go ahead and open that up and look on there. You should see a button that says, quit calling me. Next time you want to call me, open that app, look for the button that says, quit calling me. That's a little bit abrupt, but maybe it says reset Apple TV. And when they click reset Apple TV, it resets the Apple TV for them. They have the power. They have the control now. They feel empowered. They feel like, whoa, that's really cool. I spent a lot of money on this, and now I can control it. They feel like they're getting their money's worth out of their products. OvrC Home is extremely simple to deploy. It's one of the big pieces I want to talk about today, because if you are deploying OvrC-enabled products right now to your customers' job sites, if you have a WAP box living on a job site right this second, you can deploy OvrC Home to your clients right now. Those are improved features you can add to your client's experience right this second. That's a big deal. So we're gonna break that down. We're gonna talk about how you set that up here in a second. OvrC Home also expands into a couple of different areas. We have wireless network controls where when using our Arachnus access points, you can control access to Wi-Fi with certain devices in the home, which is a big deal for parental controls. You can restrict access to certain types of websites with OvrC Home as well. And the last piece of OvrC Home is you have the ability to brand the app your own. That means that you can put your company logo and your company contact information inside the application. So when the client opens that app, they're going to know who you are. They're going to remember who you are. At the last thing you want is your client to forget who you are, lose your phone number, lose your business card, whatever it may be, and then call your competitor. OvrC Home maintains that contact information. Anytime they have an issue, open the app up and ask for help. That's a big deal for you guys to move into the space of charging for this kind of stuff. Now more than ever, you need solutions in place to allow you to incur additional revenue when you can't make a trip to a job site, right? Prior to the last month, it was important because it just saved you money to make sure you can work on other things. Well, now you're having to do remote service calls, remote truck rolls, virtually, right? You can't go there anymore, and a lot of times you can't charge for that because you never prepared a client for that. OvrC and OvrC Home is all about taking you down that path to start to develop better service contracts, get paid for the work you guys are doing, right? And that's one of our biggest goals, to empower you guys to do that, and then in return allow you to empower your customers to feel like they have a great solution and that they want to actually pay for your support as well. So I want to jump in and look at a few examples here, right, and talk about some hands-on here with OvrC and the platform itself. So if you guys are not using OvrC on any of your job sites today, if you're new to the OvrC ecosystem, creating an account's free. There's no worry if you guys don't have an account today. Creating an account for OvrC is free. Everything we're going to talk about that we have talked about and we're going to keep talking about is also free. I will tell you guys when something in OvrC may cost you money, but everything we're discussing right this second is all free. Continue to remember that. That's always a question I get. Well, I don't want to have to, charge my customer for this or whatever it may be. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But in some scenarios, it makes sense. But we feel like the functionality of OvrC belongs to you, and we don't want to charge you for that. And so that's something I always like to reinforce. Create your account, and inside of your accounts with OvrC, you won't see one fully populated like you see on my screen in front of you. You'll see something similar. And guys, if you have questions, please submit those questions at that Q&A panel. I'm not seeing a ton come through. I don't believe you that you don't have any questions, but feel free to submit those questions. We're going to ask. I'm going to answer those as we go through today. I'm going to answer some of those at the end as well. No one will see your question unless I make it public, so feel free to ask those questions if you guys want to. I'm happy to answer any and everything that comes through. So in your OvrC accounts, when you log in and you go to one of your main customers, the first thing you're going to have is a device list. Your device list is where all of your devices on that job site live. Like I was saying before, your native OvrC products, these are all the ones with the custom icons here. If you only use Wattbox, then your account may only have a Wattbox on it. I don't know if I have an example here to show you guys of one with just Wattbox on it. But if the only product you use is Wattbox, that's all that's going to be there. And that's going to make your life really, really simple at the end of the day. So here's an example. All it has is IP cameras. That's it. If all I deploy are Luma IP cameras, that's all I'm going to manage and oversee. It's free, and it's a big deal for you guys to make that thing happen there. So looking at some of the devices, let's talk about some of the examples of the control you get with those devices. Arachnus 310 PoE switches, great example of what OvrC can give you. This is my Arachnus 310 24-port PoE. I can see all of the connected ports on that switch. I can name those ports so I know what is plugged in where. I can see the status. Is there actual network traffic coming through? Is there any PoE coming through on the port? And then I can manipulate the PoE on that port. I can turn PoE off. I can turn PoE on. I can reset it. And then I can dive a little bit deeper into that port and look at PoE wattage consumption. I can look at how much data is being sent through the actual port on that switch as well. So we're getting a lot of really great control right away of our Arachnus PoE switch. Settings-wise, there's not a ton, like I said, in the cloud. This is where you can name your ports. You can force PoE allocation if you'd like to. But one of the main things that you'll see of all of our native OvrC devices is this Web Connect icon. This means that you have access to the local UI of that device. And so if I select the Web Connect icon for that 310 PoE, that's going to create a secure tunnel to the local UI of that device, which is going to give me the flexibility and control to log in and see that UI and make any changes I need to remotely. This is a big deal. We're talking about giving you access, giving you control to every device on your job site, right? If you have access to the web UI of a device quickly and efficiently with no extra network setup, you can go in and make any extra change you need to. If Sonos is giving you a problem and you need to go and adjust spanning tree, well, now you can hop into your Arachnus PoE switch, your Arachnus managed switch, and go in and adjust spanning tree remotely. That's a big deal that we talk about with our devices living in the OvrC cloud, is that kind of access, that kind of control. If you look at our Arachnus access points, you have some really great data and status living on those access points, ranging from showing you how much network traffic is happening on that individual access point. You can even break that down even deeper into looking how much traffic is being used on a per device level. So when clients are complaining about issues where there's too much data being used, or maybe they're seeing issues with a system, you can go in and you can start to troubleshoot individual devices, right? When a customer calls you and says, my internet isn't working, well, what the heck does that mean? That can mean a ton of different things out there in the world, that my internet isn't working. Let's start to break it down on a per device level, and let's go identify those devices. Is it not working every single day? Is it not working certain times of the day? Oh, it's not working at 8 p.m. Let's go look at our traffic histogram here. Interesting. I saw yesterday at 8 p.m. there was quite a big traffic spike around that time. What else was going on in that system? That's a big thing to be able to see and to be able to troubleshoot and understand. And then let's dive deeper into individual devices that could be causing that issue. So this device right here, this is my Apple TV. I've been streaming some video, streaming some 4K content from my Apple TV. That's a big reason why you're seeing some of these examples here. That's a great example of trying to identify those devices and what's going on. And then diving deeper into configuration of our access points, you do have the ability to come in and create new wireless networks within OvrC. You can adjust and edit current wireless networks within OvrC. You can go through and disable guest networks, and you still have access to that web UI if you need to make any advanced changes as well. And then every OvrC device also has an activity log to let you know what has been going on that device and who has been manipulating it. Every person in your company should have their own OvrC account that's a part of your company account. One person creates the account and then they invite other people into that account to share access. Your device activity list here will show you who's making changes and show you what's happening within that. It's important to have to track what's going on inside of your systems. So those are some great examples of network devices and what they do in OvrC. I want to show you our Luma products. Then I'm going to hop in and show you some Wattbox examples and explain some more of that. So like I said before, Luma IP cameras and NVRs and DVRs are native OvrC products. So on the front end, that gives you great information around seeing camera snapshots to troubleshoot cameras if they're having an issue. This is on a beta firmware. That's why that snapshot didn't load. It allows me to do some basic things around IP address information and then activity log information. So this is actually giving me log information of motion and smart motion events happening inside of my camera. But one of the biggest things here is I have the ability to do firmware updates. So my camera is requesting a firmware update because I am actually on a beta version of firmware on this this IP camera. So it's actually telling me to roll it back. That's why you saw some of those features didn't work there. But that's an example of how those firmware updates work, is when you have a firmware update available to a device, it's going to notify you and let you know right away that that's there. So that's an easy piece of what OvrC can do with Luma. My favorite piece of what OvrC can do with Luma is it also gives you the ability to manage remote access to your surveillance ecosystems there. So if we were in a room together, I would be asking a lot of you guys to show me your hands and how many people in the room set up their surveillance products for port forwarding for remote access, right? Most everyone will raise their hand, right? Obviously, you're all doing port forwarding, you're all using dynamic DNS, static IPs, DHCP reservations, whatever, right? How many of you guys would like to never do that again? Most of you would chuckle and say, yeah, I would love to never do port forwarding again. Well, that's what Luma Link is. Luma Link is our solution to port forwarding, dynamic DNS, all the challenges that come with setting up surveillance systems. We know how much of a challenge that is for your clients day in and day out, for you to have to go in and make those changes. With Luma Link, we're making that easy. We are using the connections in OvrC to make this process extremely simple for you guys. And so I want to log into my Luma app like you're seeing it for the first time. So I'm going to sign out of this. When you log into Luma, your Luma app, this is our application for our surveillance product. When you log in for the first time and you want to go add a device to your Luma product ecosystem, standard surveillance products, or even Luma, if you don't use Luma Link, you're going to have to click the plus icon here. You're going to have to go in and put manual device information on that device, IP address info, all the information you're going to have to put in there manually for that device. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be annoying to have to do that every single time. If anything changes, you're going to have to manually go make a change. If the client gets a new phone, if you get a new phone, you're going to have to manually update everything in that. That's annoying. That's on top of setting up all your port forwarding rules. In our Luma app on the home screen, you should see a Luma Link icon available there. That Luma Link icon is giving you the ability to log in to your OvrC account here in the Luma app. For your end clients, they would log in to their OvrC home account. So we're going to talk more about here in a second. So if I log into my OvrC account and click sign in, this is linking my Luma app with my OvrC account. And now when I go back to my device list, every single one of my OvrC enabled Luma recorders that are on my OvrC account are going to be available in the Luma app. You can actually see some of them are actually still updating into my device list here. This gives me immediate remote access to my recorders right away. Guys, that's a big deal. You can see how quick that was to get access to that. As my wife's walking into the image there, I'm sure she's really happy that I've done this to her. She has no idea. But that's a big deal to give you guys that kind of flexibility, that kind of security. LumaLink is free. It is secure. All the connections for LumaLink are happening in the United States. We're not sending communications overseas or around the world for this to happen here. This is using our OvrC servers to create this connection, to create this communication. You have full access to your surveillance systems remotely, all using LumaLink and OvrC. And again, your clients can have access to just their systems using just their version of OvrC Home. So Luma is a very, very powerful product in terms of what it can do in the OvrC ecosystem using LumaLink as an example there, guys. So I want to come through and I want to define, I appreciate the comments on the lawn. I do my best. It's a never-ending battle as a homeowner, but I do my best to keep my lawn looking nice. So I appreciate that. So LumaLink's a great example of what OvrC can do by itself with just our surveillance products. Let's talk about Wattbox for a second. So our Wattbox ecosystem is a very important product to us and at the end of the day in terms of what it can do for you guys. Wattbox kind of comes in 3 flavors today. Wattbox comes in the traditional power strip flavor. It comes in traditional power conditioner flavors, and then obviously our UPSs as well. So Wattbox, our original goal of the platform was to give you guys a Wattbox for every job site. And our goal now is much different. It's to give you a Wattbox for every single install on every single piece of the install. If you have IP power on that job site, there's a good chance you can solve almost any problem. And unless there's a physical failure, you can solve almost any problem out there. And so the biggest thing that I really want to talk about here is the sizes and flavors and options you have with the Wattbox ecosystem. And then we're going to go through some of the cool settings you have access to. So Wattbox products today come in 2 outlet models. So it comes in our new 2 outlet ultra compact Wi-Fi enabled Wattbox. This thing's pretty awesome. It is a Wi-Fi enabled Wattbox that allows you to put that thing anywhere on the job site to have control over power. It also is controllable via a control system to allow you to give it access anywhere across the board. So for example, I have my Wi-Fi enabled Wattbox out on my porch in a protected area. It is not outdoor rated, but I have it in a protected area on my porch on Wi-Fi, and it is connected to this nice new rope light deployment that I have for my porch, and I want to be able to control that via a light switch. Well, so I have that Wi-Fi Wattbox there. I have the rope lights plugged into that, and I have the relay for the Wattbox tied to a light switch, a control for light switch in my home. And so now I can go to that light switch, I can turn on the light, and rather than turning on every light on my back porch, it just turns on my new Edison bulb rope light that I have wrapped around my back porch now. That's a cool thing you can do. That's available with a free driver, not just with Control 4. Every control system can manipulate and control Wattbox products. And this is a great example of what that can do here. So super awesome that you guys can talk about there with what it can do for you guys from that side of things. So then we go from our 2 outlet. We have a 5 outlet VersaBox compatible Wattbox. That's a Wattbox that can drop into your wall and be used with a VersaBox. We have a 6 outlet power strip that can be used as a normal power strip. It can be mounted as a 1U space surge protector in your racks. We have a 12 outlet 12 outlet rack mountable surge protector with IP power. We have a 12 outlet vertical power strip. We have an 18 outlet vertical power strip. The point here is we have options across the board for multiple different product lineups within the Wattbox ecosystem. But the key is really that OvrC experience here. So if I go back to my OvrC account and we jump into one of our Wattboxes here and pull up one of my my 12 outlet Wattbox power strip. What you're really getting here though, guys, is you're getting the ability to go in and control all of the outlets living inside this ecosystem here. That is giving me the ability to control the individual outlets across the board, seeing my power and amperage draw at every single level, turning the outlets on, rebooting the outlets across the board there. And then like I was saying before, it's giving you full configuration over that watt box. So let's talk about a few settings here right away, best practices when utilizing our watt boxes on your job sites. So the first setting you see here is outlet options. This is where you go through and name your outlets on your watt box, setting your power on delays on that watt box. Your power on delay is that when I power that unit on, by default, it's going to sequence every outlet to power on 1 second after the other, right? So the 12th outlet will power on 12 seconds after the first outlet in this example here, right? You can customize that to whatever you want to. Maybe your router is going to power on right away after 1 second, and then your modem, wherever that might be, or sorry, other way around. Your modem might come on first, your router might come on 30 seconds later, maybe it comes on 60 seconds later, whatever makes sense, but you can create those power on sequences appropriately so you guys can go through and properly manage those job sites. And then one of the biggest ones here is you'll see this outlet mode option. This is what enables or disables control over a specific outlet when it comes to, OvrC or control systems to whatever it may be. Best practice, network device reset only. This feature is allowing you to set an outlet to never be turned off. I'm sure you guys can think of an example of why that would be important to have. I can think of a great example. I do not want to accidentally turn off my router. If I accidentally turn off my router, poof, network's gone. You're going to have to roll a truck to plug that thing in somewhere else to temporarily revert this setting inside of the watt box, or you're going to have to get the client to do it for you and plug it in somewhere else. This is just allowing you to make sure that you don't make a mistake at the wrong time. And so network device reset only is a great option, a great tool you guys have access to inside of the Wattbox ecosystem. I recommend you utilize it on every single job site. It's a big deal to have. And then the next kind of area I want to talk about here is the auto reboot setting. So one of the questions we love to get in training for Wattbox and for OvrC is you get a wise guy in the back of the room that raises his hand and with a chuckle says, "Well, what do you do if there's no internet? Does OvrC still work?" Unfortunately, today OvrC does require internet to function. We're gonna try and change that one day, but today OvrC does require internet to function. And so, what do you do if there's no internet? Auto reboot is our solution to that. Auto reboot was the original killer feature with OvrC. Before OvrC, the original killer feature with Wattbox. I would like for anyone that wants to give it a shot. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. When was the original IP Wattbox released? If you can give me the year, that's great. I would like to see if you don't get the month. The original IP Wattbox, when was it released? I'll tell you guys the answer here in a few minutes. But the original OvrC enabled or IP Wattbox feature was auto reboot. It's automatic tech support. It's the ability for our Wattbox to monitor performance of the network, local IPs and remote IPs or websites. And if connection to those fail in some certain way, we want to reboot a specific group of outlets. So the best example is if I lose access to a specific group of websites for an extended period of time, reboot my modem and my router. That's probably telling me that internet is down. I need to give it a reboot. It automatically happens in the sequence that we have set up so that it always goes back to the exact way you guys are expecting it to make your life much, much easier when it comes to that. So I want to go through how you guys set up auto reboot. Auto reboot is available on every single Wattbox product we sell that's IP enabled. It's a critical feature for you guys to have. So the way auto reboot works is that in the beginning first, you turn it on in the host settings. Then you go to the host settings as the next option here. And this is where you're setting what websites or IP addresses you want it to ping. So the difference in what I want to explain here is that websites should be used to fix internet issues. Local IP addresses should be used to fix individual devices on your local network. So I have my EA3 as an example of a local device, and then I have websites here as well. You can put your websites in and click test, and it's going to test to see if that ping attempt is good. So you know if you're picking a good website to choose. And then same thing with this. I believe this IP address is still valid, so I know I'm good to go there. So I've selected first the devices I want it to ping for this feature to function. Once I select that, I need to then go in and do or set up the logic for my individual outlets. And so what I'm saying here is that my router, for it to enter into an auto reboot state, I need either all of the selected host to timeout or any of the selected host to timeout. So my recommendation is use all. What this means is that everything checked below has to time out collectively for it to enter into an auto reboot state. If you select any for a internet issue, if yahoo.com goes down, it's happened before, that could put your Wapbox into a state where it needs to auto reboot. Rebooting your Wapbox isn't going to fix yahoo.com, right? That's not what we're worried about. We're worried about if everything fails in terms of internet connectivity. So I recommend if you're doing an internet issue, all selected hosts have to time out, pick your websites, and save that information. If you're doing a local IP address, you can just pick that one IP address method option. Once you have your outlets set in your reboot scenario there, you then need to set your timeout settings. So your timeout settings are saying what categorizes as an auto reboot. So what we're saying is that I have to lose communication with those selected websites for 15 seconds, 5 times in a row. 15 seconds, 5 times in a row. So that means I have to lose internet connection to those websites or lose the ability to ping those 3 websites for 75 seconds straight. If after 75 seconds I still can't ping, I still can't reach those websites, then we're going to auto reboot in the sequence that you set before. You can tweak this right anywhere from 1 to 60 seconds, 1 to 10 times in a row to make sure that it's appropriate for your job sites. I do not recommend you make this too sensitive, right? Because if you have some clients that have bad internet, historically bad internet, you don't want it to always be trying to auto reboot because you have a 10-second drop. A 10-second drop isn't enough. A lot of times your clients won't even notice that. But if that 10-second drop causes the entire network to still fail, it's still going to happen after your 75 seconds, but I don't recommend keeping it too sensitive. And then the next 2 options you see here are time interval after auto reboot and reboot attempts. This first one is saying that after an auto reboot occurs, we're going to wait 15 minutes before re-enabling auto reboot to detect again. It's just to make sure if you have an extended outage, you're not checking every 75 seconds, to do a reboot, right? We're going to wait 15 minutes by default after an auto reboot occurs to start checking again. And then similar concept, we're going to attempt to auto reboot 5 times. If after the 5th time, we still don't have connection, we still can't reach those websites or IP addresses, we're going to take that outlet, turn it back on, and then we're going to go into a state where it stays on, and auto reboot will only re-enable when internet connection comes back. So this is just fail-safe to make sure that your job site, the way you deploy this is foolproof, and you don't have to worry about it after the fact. Auto reboot is a crucial feature to the IP Wapbox ecosystem. It is a very, very important feature for you guys to be utilizing and deploying on your job sites today. So I always recommend you guys utilize it as much as possible. And then we do have the ability to schedule automatic, you can say automatic, but it allows you to schedule reboots as well. So you can create a reboot schedule for you guys to be able to come in, and as my internet starts to hang up here, create a reboot schedule for you guys to come in and say that I want specific outlets to reboot at specific times, or I want outlets to actually turn off at a certain time and then turn back on at a certain time as well. So a lot of great functionality, great features in the Wapbox ecosystem here for you guys. It is one of my favorite products in all of OvrC and all of Wapbox as well. So I saw one question come through, mentioned that the Control4 driver for our 700 series only allows you to control 8 of the 12 outlets. I thought we had fixed that. I'll check that here for you in a second. Scott, I saw that you pushed that through. I thought that was fixed. in the driver settings if you discovered that driver via SDDP, but I will check and make sure that that is the case, and make sure that that's not the case any longer for you guys. But as I think it's just trying to look at the relays there. Yeah, Scott, if you pull in the driver via SDDP, make sure that you delete the local version from your computer in Control 4, and that should correct that for you. I just pulled in via SDDP, and it does all 12. So if any of you guys have an issue where it's only looking at 8 outlets, it's probably an old version of the driver. Make sure you delete that driver and pull in the new version via SDDP in Control 4. So thanks for that question. I went ahead and tested it on my end as well. And I'll pull it over here just so you can see that. So you can see it right here. So this is my Wattbox 12 outlet. You can see all 12 outlets available in Control 4. Every other control system should be the same for you guys as well. So great questions. So let's jump in now. Let's talk about some more Wattbox examples here. So you've learned what Wattbox can do. You've learned the value of it. Now, how do you give some of that same value back to your clients? So let's talk about OvrC Home. So like I was mentioning before, OvrC Home is our end user facing application that allows you to give some of that control back to your clients. And so the way OvrC Home is set up is when you go to your customers in OvrC on the desktop application and you go to client services, that's where you're going to find the OvrC Home experience. So the first thing you have to do is invite your client to OvrC Home. Inviting a client to OvrC Home, you create their initial account. You put in their username, you put in their password, you put all the information in there first. After that information is there, they will get an email saying that Jose V invited me to this ecosystem here. Here's a link to download the application. And then you should most likely give that client a phone call to let them know that this is their initial password. They can always, once they log in for the first time, change their password if they want to, if they don't like the password that you gave them. But they also have a forgotten password feature if they forget their password. We know all clients forget their passwords. So that's always step one, is giving them that kind of flexibility and that kind of control as you create their account. Once you create their account, you can then start to use the device commands option we said before. So remember, I said that every OvrC enabled device can be power cycled in some way, shape, or form. So let's go and create a command to reset that Apple TV. So the way you do that is you open the add command option, you select the icon for whatever you want that kind of command to look like inside of your system. And then you go through and you select your devices that you want to be a part of this ecosystem. So this allows you to go through and select an entire device like an IP camera, an entire device like an access point, or select individual outlets on, say, a Wattbox. And if you have those outlets named, it will pull in the names of those outlets as well. And so I can go in and start selecting my outlets now and add them into my macro. I can have 5 different devices inside of my macro at one time. And I can put delays between each device to make sure that things come back online appropriately and move the direction I want them to in that setup there. And the last thing is that I can put a delay on how long that command is disabled after the macro as well. So I have the ability to go through and say, once the customer presses this button, they can't press it again for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, so they don't go crazy with the scenario. And so once you create that macro, again, you guys can do this right this second. Once you create that macro and you click save, you see on my OvrC Home app here, I'm going to close it, open it back up. You're going to see that command immediately show up in their OvrC Home app. That's fast. My point here is that if you guys are deploying OvrC Home already for your clients, if they already have it, you can add this control, this functionality right now. If they don't have it, but they have some OvrC enabled devices on that job site today, you can go ahead and set them up with a username and password, and then give them controls right now. When these clients keep calling you, you can deploy this right this second. That's fast. That's easy for you guys to make this thing work really, really well at the end of the day. It's a great feature to give you guys this kind of flexibility and this kind of control. So let's create those macros. That's free to use. That gives your client some control. It's a great way to use OvrC Home for your clients today. Yeah, I saw a great example there that Eric, mentioned, that always forgetting to turn OvrC Home on. So that's why I kind of tell people that you guys should be deploying OvrC Home at the job walkthrough, regardless of you giving them any control over the system. You should still give it to them when you sign off on the job. The reason for that, I mentioned before, is that in OvrC, if you go to your account section and go to OvrC Home Info, you have the ability to put your company contact information right here in the app. Upload your logo, upload your email address, phone number, company name, and you'll see in my OvrC Home app over here on the right-hand side, that information is all right here. I have the ability to see all this information right here on the spot, reach out to my dealer, go in and make these changes across the board when I need to. I can have it force a phone call inside the app if I want to right away. And the cool thing is, if I go back to my client list here, I have the ability to turn off certain pieces of OvrC Home. So if I go through and I turn off every single piece of OvrC Home and I close the app and open it back up, it's blank. There's no control. They can see that they don't have control, but they still have my info. Everything I have is still here. They can still get in contact with me, and they still know what the app is. So if they already know what it is, and when you deploy those features we just talked about, they have it there already. They're ready to go. And so OvrC Home is a tool that you can deploy the second you close on that job site. And you can tell the customer, if they open the app and say, oh, hey, it says it's not configured for this location, contact your integrator. Oh, yeah, that's a part of my service plan. When you join my service plan, I provide remote support and I give you your own app to fix your own problems. It's $25 a month, or $150 a year, or whatever the number that makes sense for you guys. Use this as a tool. Use OvrC Home as a tool for you guys to, I don't want to say leverage, that's not the best word, but to give your clients a better experience, or for you guys to make money off of it as well. We want you guys to be successful, to be profitable, to grow, because at the end of the day, the more you grow, the more we grow. It's a win-win for everyone involved. So that's what some of the examples of what OvrC Home can give you. I also mentioned the network controls function here, where you have the ability to go in and create wireless device profiles for different people in the home. So this is available on Arachnus access points only today, where you can go through and you can say that I want to set certain Wi-Fi devices to be a part of this profile. And then once they are in that profile, I then have the ability to go in and create a schedule inside of that profile and say at certain times of the day or week, this person only has access to Wi-Fi during these specific times. And then once I save that profile and I've enabled it in OvrC Home, the client now will have the ability in OvrC Home to go in and see their new network controls. And so they can pause Wi-Fi on demand inside the home on a per device basis. They can even edit and add other Wi-Fi devices when they want to, or take them off the profile. So they could actually, they could ground one of their kids and do this if they wanted to. And they can pause Wi-Fi for the entire home on demand as well with this feature. So this is a cool feature to have. This is available only with Arachnus access points as well. So I love showing that feature off. And then the last one you see there is content filtering and network security. This is the ability for you to go in and turn on or restrict access to specific websites on a customer's internet or customer's network as well. So OvrC Home is packed with content. We also have an activity log here that will tell you when your clients are using it, so you can know if they're actually using the tool that you're charging them for. OvrC Home is a great tool. I wanted to spend more time today talking about that, because that's something that your clients are going to be using more often. And that's something that you deploy right this second to all of your clients. I challenge you guys to go do it. If you have those products deployed today, go do that. Deploy it right now. So it's a great solution I want to talk to you guys about. So we're going to move over and talk about OvrC Pro as the ending piece today. I'm going to look at a few of the questions before I do that to see if any are relevant to what we've just talked about. Before I do that, though, so give me a second here, and let me check on a few of the questions. And then we're going to move over to OvrC, OvrC Home as well. So let's see here. Or sorry, OvrC Pro. Let's look at a few of the questions here. So I saw one that came up a little bit earlier. Our Wattbox UPS products. So we have, you saw on the previous screen there as well, we have a full line of Wattbox UPSs that are OvrC enabled and not OvrC enabled. So OvrC enabled, an OvrC enabled Wattbox, essentially what it means is that it has the ability to connect into a Wattbox. What that means is that on our UPSs or on our Wattboxes, here I'll show you an example. I'm going to go ahead and share my iPad again, and I'm going to bring up the camera on this bad boy and show you what I mean. On our Wattboxes, you will see a little UPS link option that looks just like that. That UPS link option, the way that's designed to work is it links from the output of your OvrC enabled UPS. Your OvrC UPS has the same connection point there. It links from that UPS into the Wattbox, and it also takes power out of the UPS into the Wattbox, and the Wattbox becomes the brains of the operation. The UPS is just the essentially just the battery in those scenarios there. So we have those in rack-mountable versions that are a single outlet to make that experience happen. And then we have some smaller cabinet and desk style UPSs that you'll see multiple power outlets on. The thing to note is that when you integrate the question that came through from Bayard is that 350 series, you do need a watt box, an IP watt box to enable that UPS for use in the OvrC ecosystem. When you enable it for OvrC use, all the outlets on your watt box are controllable with the UPS. The outlets that are on that UPS to begin with are not controllable. That's just the way we had to design it. So the goal though is to make that watt box, the IP watt box, is connected to the UPS, the brains of the operation. It has all the control, all the flexibility, all the load shedding. So it's a great question that came through there as well. So I see some OvrC Pro specific questions that we're going to go through here. I've marked those to answer live. I saw a great question that came through from Jeff around, are we planning to expand upon what our Luma app can do for playback and looking at recorded footage? We are. We have a lot of goals, a lot of plans to expand upon the user experience for Luma within the next year or so. So stay tuned on that. Nothing immediate, but it definitely is something internally we're working a lot on today. So I saw another question that came through around Luma Link and assigning multiple user accounts. So let me read through this question real quick and make sure I understand it. So that's a great question. I think I get what you're saying. The way Luma Link works today is that if your client has multiple locations, right? On the simple way is your customer has a mountain home and a beach house, right? They can have access to both of those system surveillance products under one OvrC Home account with Luma Link. If you want to restrict access further, say, like your example, a district manager versus the GM, we don't have that ability just yet with OvrC Home at that level. So you might still need to do traditional port forwarding with traditional logins to make that scenario happen. If you want to give everyone the same access to multiple locations, that's easy to do today. If you want to do kind of individual levels of access to those systems, we don't have that just yet. We are building those features in, but we don't have that just yet. So it's a great question that came through as you kind of talk through that. Let's see here. I saw one that came through around. So the power on delays, I kind of showed that earlier. The way the power on delays work in our Wattbox is that you can have any device you want to on a power on delay in terms of when it comes up, when it goes down, so on and so forth. So, that question comes through from Eric on like an autonomic MMS3E. Yeah, so you could set that power on delay. So the way the power on delay works, that power on delay is global. No matter where that product is powered on from in terms of the Wattbox. If power is lost in the home and it comes back up, if you do an auto reboot, if you press the power button on the front of the Wattbox, that power on delay is always there. It always happens no matter what. So you can make sure that if that device needs to be delayed, always it will be at that Wattbox level. So I see a question from John around, is there a way to reboot a Wattbox network connection without powering the Wattbox off? So there is no way to reboot that network connection remotely if it is offline, but all of our Wattboxes have a reset button on it. You may be able to kind of see it here on my example here. They all have a reset button. That reset button does not touch the power on the unit whatsoever. It just power cycles the network card inside of the Wattbox. So if you press that physical reset button, that will power cycle the Wattbox, the network card, but not the actual outlets themselves. So if the device is offline, we can't force that to happen, but it will reset that card if you press that button on there. So a great question there as well. So I think we've got a good chance here. I'll come back to, looks like Eric, you had a few more questions. I'll come back to that in a little bit and look through this. Okay, great. Let's jump into OvrC. I think we've got some good stuff answered here, and a lot of the questions that are left and coming through are OvrC Pro related. So if we look at, and I saw one follow-up to Bayard's question as well. If you need it for user access management, I completely understand where it may not work on that job site. I'd still recommend having OvrC there for your management. While it may not make sense for the end users, you can still set up traditional access. It still will make your life easier having remote management for troubleshooting, firmware updates, things like that. That's the thing to always think about there. It's multiple levels of use cases for you guys. So OvrC Pro is the final extension of the OvrC ecosystem. And OvrC Pro is all about enabling your job sites for management over every single device on that job site. Not just SnapAV, natively integrated products, every single device on that job site. It's a big deal to make sure that your job sites are going to grow and be managed appropriately, because at the end of the day, we can't make everything. We're going to try. At SnapAV, we have over 3,000 different SKUs that we make today that we manufacture, but there's still plenty of products that we're never going to make. There's still plenty of products that you might like some of our competitors, and that's okay as well. We wanted to have a tool in place for you guys to manage everything. So OvrC Pro is the first piece of OvrC that might cost you some money. So what I mean by that is that OvrC Pro comes in two flavors. It comes in the OvrC Pro Hub. That's a standalone hub that is a per job site device. That standalone OvrC Pro Hub may cost you anywhere from $150 to $300 one-time cost. That's not a subscription fee, doesn't require tokens or anything else for you guys to re-enable this device. That's a one-time cost for that job site to enable it for some of the features we're going to talk about with OvrC Pro. If you deploy Arachnus routers, 110 series and 310 series, OvrC Pro is enabled out of the gate. That device has OvrC Pro built in for free. So I saw that question come through asking about that. It has all the same functionality that our OvrC Pro hub has inside of the Arachnus routers. So the reason we have both is that if you want to use Arachnus networking products as your go-to networking line, then all you need to worry about for OvrC Pro is putting a router in. If you don't want to use Arachnus networking, that's fine. You have access to the OvrC Pro hub for those job sites as well. Whatever you want to do, we want to give you the options to deploy what we feel like is one of the best remote management platforms out there and giving you all that control. So what does OvrC Pro give you? Why is it, obviously cost money? Why is it different? The first thing you get with OvrC Pro is a unique location dashboard that's trying to give you site level data, site level statistics inside of the ecosystem. You're also getting some more in-depth network diagnostics. You're seeing things around ISP speed test information. We're using Ookla, speedtest.net, to monitor your internet performance and show you that data real time. Pinging devices, showing network latencies as well. Once installed, the hub will discover and find all IP devices on your network, not just SnapAV enabled devices, but it will show you and automatically add every device on that network, including the OvrC enabled ones as well. So that's a great thing to start giving you that visibility. It is going to give you the ability, I saw a question come through about this already. It's going to give you the ability to web access multiple types of devices. So on the front end, if a device has a web UI, OvrC Pro can access it, no problem. That's third-party network switches, access points, routers, printers, audio video receivers. If it has a web UI, OvrC Pro can give you access to it. If that device can be accessed via a SSH or Telnet tunnel, OvrC Pro can give you access to it. I saw a question that came through a little bit earlier asking about Telnet and that kind of scenario as well. That's an awesome feature. I saw a question earlier that came through. Can you access a local computer on OvrC in lieu of TeamViewer? Yes. I will show you that example here in a second. Using Windows Remote Desktop Protocol, we can create a secure tunnel into a Windows PC using OvrC Pro. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. If you have a computer on a job site, you can solve almost any problem out there for your clients at the end of the day. It's an awesome feature to have. So web access, Telnet access, Windows-based access, you can get access all through the OvrC ecosystem here with OvrC Pro. And then one of the biggest pieces that we always love talking about is third-party device integration. Third-party device integration is the integration that we're building in-house to give you better control over all devices on that job site. Not just visibility, not just notifications, but real-life control. Deep integration into the ecosystem that's giving you similar control that you're going to have over these products over here, over some of these on the right-hand side as well. And so that's examples like third-party network switches, Luxel, Ubiquiti, Netgear, Cisco, giving you deep control to control the PoE status, see status of those devices, get access to the web UI. Deep integration with third-party audio video receivers, Denon, Yamaha, Marantz, Pioneer, Integra, Onkyo. I'll show you some examples of what that looks like here in a second. IP control over Samsung IPTVs, control over Panamax surge protectors in a similar way that you would see with Wattbox. Visibility and statistics from SurgeX and Vision type products. Control over Roku. We also develop things like the OnVIF protocol for IP cameras. The list goes on and on. We could go in a deep, deep rabbit hole over all the things that are here. I encourage you guys to try out OvrC Pro, throw it on your home network and see what's there. We developed OvrC Pro in a few different ways. We are looking for open API from the manufacturers you guys are using. If there's an open API like Roku, we can quickly develop for it. We are looking for manufacturers to give us their API if they're willing. Or the third is we're trying to develop a partnership so that the manufacturer can write a custom API that we can then create the experience for as well. If there are products you want to see in OvrC Pro, I encourage you to let us know. I also encourage you to let that manufacturer know. A lot of times it's not up to us to develop the integration, it's up to the manufacturer to open up their integration to allow for this type of experience, this kind of flexibility. So the biggest thing is I want to show you guys what this looks like, right? We have some great questions that already come through these scenarios here. I saw Sharif ask that one right there. What's the best way to access third-party devices such as Integra or Yamaha? This is it right here. So let's go through and take a look at some of this stuff, guys. Give me a second here. Let me get all this pulled up. So we hop back into our OvrC account and we have a look at our system and what's available in here. I'm going to use my home as the first example. When you go to your, so I mentioned before, the first thing you have is your global dashboard now. Your global dashboard is site level information around how many firmware updates are available, internet speed test information, a histogram, all of my router discovered clients, all of my Wi-Fi devices across the entire job site, everything I need right here from a site level view. And then if I go to my device list and I scroll down, everything with this globe you see right here on the right-hand side is an OvrC Pro discovered device. What that means is OvrC Pro has discovered it and it can see it and it's there. Obviously, some of them are offline. If I don't want to see those, I can hide those devices forever so they don't keep showing up inside of my OvrC Pro ecosystem. I'm going to go ahead and do that here so we get a little better view of everything that we can see below. So if that device is just a simple blue globe with no green dot, it has basic integration into the OvrC Pro ecosystem. So what that means is like an Apple TV, for example, we don't have integration. We may never have integration. Apple doesn't like to play nice in that realm. And so we can go through and just see status info. We can rename that device if we want to in our device list, and we can turn on device notifications if we want to, so they can be notified when that device goes offline. But if that device has a green icon next to it, it has some deeper integration into OvrC Pro. So the example I'm showing you right now is a Control4 EA3 processor. This device will eventually become native into the OvrC Pro ecosystem, as well as all the other Control4 products that became a part of our ecosystem after the merger with Control4. So today with Control4, you're seeing a lot of great info. You can reboot the entire processor. You can go through and see how much memory is in use. You can go through and see status of different file versions or service versions running, status of all the servers. You can refresh navigators from OvrC Pro. You can see status around backup information, all of your Zigbee devices on your system, and if they're currently online or offline, and the address of those Zigbee devices, battery status of your remote controls on your system. So some pretty cool stuff you can see with Control4 today. That was an easy one, right? Because they're in-house with us. One of my favorite ones is if I hop into, say, a package network switch, because this package network switch is going to be a similar experience that you're going to see on other, actually this is not going, I don't have any PoE on here. So I'm going to hop back to another one in a second and show you guys what that looks like, a device for PoE. A good one though that you can see, so I have an older Denon AVR. There is no deep integration into OvrC Pro with this older Denon AVR, but if I click on Web Connect, this is going to create a secure web tunnel into the web UI of that Denon AVR, which still has a lot of good control and flexibility inside that. You can do that with any third-party audio video receiver if it doesn't have deep integration. So I can still hop in here, and I can still get control over that third-party Denon AVR to make a lot of changes that are available in there. I'll show you some examples of deeper integration here in a second, outside of what this one looks like here. Another great example is that if I hop into my Roku players on my job site, on my house today. So let's scroll down and let's look for my Roku. So my Roku Ultra, it's a pretty cool device. You can see some good status info, but the best thing you see here is all of the installed apps on your Roku. Not every app, only the installed apps, and you have the ability to launch those apps or see if it's currently playing in OvrC Pro today. This is a great troubleshooting feature to see what's going on with your clients. If a client calls you and says their Netflix isn't working, what does it mean Netflix isn't working? Am I having, can they not just, is it not showing up? Are they not getting video? Is the remote not working? So you can say, hey, give me a second, let me launch Netflix. Do you see Netflix on your TV? Oh, I do see Netflix. So that means I know that my video switching is working, but maybe the link between my Roku and my control system has been broken. And so everything else is switching and going to where it needs to, but it's not actually selecting Netflix on the Roku. That gives me a path to go and troubleshoot now. That gives me a path to go fix my problem. That's a big deal to give you guys more control and more flexibility. So those are some great examples of products on my job sites. Let me go jump on a couple of extra ones here as we go through that. And I see some great questions have already come through. So I saw Scott asking about adding port naming to package switches. So that is in progress, Scott. So as we continue to enable some of our new pieces of hardware, right, in the OvrC ecosystem, you're going to see some of those examples. Timeline is still kind of TBD. They're all going to kind of come online in different levels and different times. But we're hoping to have, most, if not all, products from the merger on OvrC before the end of the year. Some will be much, much, much earlier than that, and some will take a little bit longer as we have to do some pretty advanced firmware things inside of them as well. But if I jump into another one of my demo accounts here, and I want to look at, let's say, this is a Panamax surge protector. I also have some questions that came through on that side as well. We have a lot of the same flexibility and control in this Panamax protector that we're going to have in OvrC as well. The biggest thing here is that, we want to give you guys the tools to control it. Are we saying go out and buy a bunch of Panamax and forget about Wapbox? No. But if you decide to move to Wapbox, but you have a bunch of Panamax already deployed, we don't want to force you down a path where you have to choose between interfaces now. We want to give you one interface to manage everything across the board there. So it's just giving you guys more control, more flexibility to have some of your same access and control across the board here, guys. I want to look at first here we go, a package network switch today. So what you're going to see right away is similar to what you see on an Arachnus PoE switch. If the port is online or offline, if you can power cycle that port, recycle PoE, get some status information, I can still get access to the web UI of that package managed switch. This experience for package will get better as we start to natively integrate it into OvrC. With that being said, this experience is very similar on Cisco, Ubiquiti, Luxel, all the other ones that are out there today when it comes to managed switches. Same thing with access points. You can get access to the UI of these access points, all from the OvrC ecosystem using OvrC Pro. Network switch integration is a big deal to give you some of that flexibility and control. And then if we were to jump into, say, a Marantz in our 1508 receiver here, we're going to see some good information around firmware information, if it's available or not, the current status of all the music services that are signed in on that receiver. We're going to see system information if video is being currently used, the status of all the video settings on that device, control over certain zones, rebooting the network card, the current zone in use, error or fault codes on that receiver, and then we can still jump into the UI of that Marantz receiver if we want to. We have some pretty good integration with things like Pioneer today as well. So on a Pioneer receiver, we can go through, see a lot of good status info, and control a lot of features, turning CEC, ARC on and off, powering zones on and off, actually changing the input on a receiver as well, seeing the status of different zones. Yamaha, though, probably has the deepest integration, as they are one of the direct partners of SnapAV. And so we can go through, reboot the network card, fix the zones inside of the system, see the status of everything inside of this, from network status to error codes to firmware versions, Bluetooth status, going through and seeing status of all the different zones, HDMI and audio. If the client changed the name of a zone, we can see that information here in the system. Again, we're seeing volume levels. We're seeing if mute isn't enabled, what the max volume is set to, music status information as well, error code information, and even a recently played list to see if the client's been using it. We're just giving you as much information as possible so that you can start to go through and give your clients status updates. Just see what's going on. Again, one central interface to control everything on your job sites. OvrC Pro should be deployed on every single one of your job sites to give you guys flexibility and control across the board. This is what you would see in a Crestron experience here on your job sites. That I mentioned before, setting up your systems for remote access to a Windows PC. So what I had to do to make this happen, if I go to site settings inside of OvrC, the first thing you have to do is on that remote PC, you do have to make sure you have remote desktop enabled on that PC. So in Windows, if you go to the remote desktop section and click enable, you can set this up right away within this PC. This is where you have the ability to go in and enable it, right? It does require Windows 10 Pro. Once you've enabled it, you need to go in and you need to tell OvrC Pro to scan for the Windows remote desktop port. It has to know to look for this port to create a tunnel for that connection. Once it scans, you will then see a Web Connect option for your desktop PC going to port 3389. Once you click Open Connection, that's going to create a secure URL that you can now drop into the Windows remote desktop profile or application. And so now on my end, if I have the Windows remote desktop connection and I pop in that URL and click connect, this is already asking me right away to log into this machine. I'm pretty sure I learned the other day I forgot my password for this, and so it is not working. Someone likened me to one of their clients always forgetting their passwords. So I can't fully show you guys that I can log into it. But the fact that it is asking me for a password tells me that it's talked to that computer. I just don't remember my password for this, and I have not had a chance to fix it yet. So I apologize for that I can't show you guys the full experience there. But it is talking to the PC on the other end, but I forgot my password. But all you have to deploy a Windows, a little NUC. Intel makes these little NUC PCs, Intel NUC, and you can get those things for $300. And you can deploy that thing in the back of your rack, have it physically plugged in to the devices that need a physical connection. And if you need to make that kind of control, that kind of flexibility, you can make that happen as well. So that's a powerful use case to talk about there for OvrC Pro and some of those other examples that are there. OvrC Pro is a nonstop expanding experience, guys. We're going to continue to develop and add deeper integrations across the board for this as we grow this platform for you guys going forward. So that's kind of the gist that I've gotten to here. I'm going to go through and answer a few of the questions. So if you guys have other ones, please submit those through as you guys go through things here. I'm going to go through a few of the ones that I see as well. Make sure I've talked through them. And I think Gary may have a few as well.
Yeah, amazing, Derek. Thank you so much. Grab a glass of water. You might be winded, but no, amazing questions. The visibility on all of those platforms is amazing. Hopefully, you guys are experienced enough to continue to spread the word. I saw an interesting question. We were talking about Wattbox with regards to Panamax and some of that other stuff. Do you feel that it's not only the visibility, but do you feel like you're sacrificing the protection, with Wattbox or with where Panamax or Furman is already?
So when you look at protection and the quality of a surge protector, right? Everything in the price range of Wattbox today, we look at our competitors in that space, we're all using a level of surge protection called MOV, which is a style of surge protection that's what's considered self-sacrificial. Which means that we're all going to essentially protect the same way as everyone else at our price point. So you may find one piece that might have better filtration versus the other. But at the end of the day, if you're really, 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 really concerned about power filtration, I would recommend putting something like a Furman or a SurgeX in front of your Wattbox. We know a lot of people do that. The products that do better filtration or offer what is called surge suppression do cost more money, and they will work better in that scenario. that doesn't mean they're not going to work on OvrC Pro. So we have a lot of customers today that will deploy that SurgeX piece in front of our Watt box in some of those scenarios. But if you look at other products in our price point for Watt box that all use MOV based, we're all very, very similar in terms of surge protection and power filtration at that price point.
Got it. Thank you.
So looking through some more of the questions that came through here. So I see that there's one question that came through from Brian around where you're seeing a device may have disconnected from OvrC, but still seems to be working, and if you power cycle, it comes back online. So that's a big thing internally that we're working on, and it's all about the way that the connection and the communication works to the OvrC cloud. And that's really being corrected in what we're calling the new version of OvrC that'll be available hopefully very soon for all of you guys. It's not going to have to be a hardware update you're going to have to do. We're updating the back end of OvrC. And one of the immediate things that we're working on is, you see it on my screen right now, my screen share, is occasionally the connection to OvrC might just blip out for a second. And we are fixing that in the new version of the way that OvrC works. Today, OvrC is very site dependent, which means that we're communicating with the job site constantly to get information, and that can sometimes cause a blip, and sometimes it can make a device lose connection. Not all the time, it's rare, but it can sometimes happen. Our new version of OvrC, one of the number one things we're doing there is working to correct that exact example that I see that Brian asked a question on as well. So I see, Eric, you've asked a few times on that specific MMS use case. Feel free to follow up with me via email. I'd like to kind of get some more information on that to see what we can do to figure out what's going on there in that specific scenario. Let me have a look here. So Chris, I saw you just installed the OvrC app, and if you don't have a user account yet, you will need to set that up. So you will need to go to the web interface to create your OvrC account first. So if you're just now installing OvrC for the very first time, you will need to create your account from the web interface of OvrC going forward. Let's see here. So David, to expand upon your question over the OvrC UPS 350, today there is no control over those outlets on the 350 itself. In the future, we do hope to bring that to the table with some new pieces of hardware, but today there is no control over those individual outlets through OvrC. Great question. We had hoped to bring that at the time, but we weren't able to do so for that. So we have seen the question about, will OvrC Pro ever be a standalone piece of software you can run on a host of your choosing? So that's a great question I see from Sean. You know, I'll never say never. The reason that we don't do that, though, is that we need to make sure that the hardware that you're deploying it on will run the features that we want OvrC Pro to run, right? And if you guys if you're asking that question, you're very familiar with all the different types of hardware this can run on. And we want to make sure that what we're asking the platform to do, that the hardware that it's being used on can actually do that. And if we just made it a piece of software for you to deploy on your own Raspberry Pi or whatever it may be, we start to lose some of that control over that. So I would say that's a much longer term type of experience. But the biggest concern is making sure that you have the best user experience possible. David asked another great question around notes. So today you do have a global notes device list here you can implement within your ecosystem. In the new version of OvrC, that notes option that you see here will move to a device level notes as well. So you can put in notes for every single device across the board. So you can always have access when you make changes and whatnot. So great question there from David as well. Mark made a great point.
Yeah, about triggering.
Yeah, so I don't have one here right in front of me to show you guys, but a lot of our Wattbox products also have a remote trigger option as well, which is literally an old school contact closure. This thing is a green port on your Wattbox. I might be able to pull one up on our website here really quick to show you guys. It's a green port on your Wattbox. that you can tie into an accessory trigger of ours. And that accessory trigger of ours allows you to essentially press a button and tie that button to any number of outlets on that WAP box. So for example here, you tie that trigger into this little trigger here. It's just a button. And you can say that when that button is pressed, it's a physical button, it can reboot whatever outlet I want to. And it will follow that power on delay like we said. So this is your old school client that doesn't want any apps. This is your old school client that doesn't want a control system. This is that client that just wants to have something to press. And you can tie that in any way you want to. We sell the button for you guys if you want the actual button as well. So it's a great tool. There's an example of that momentary trigger to give you guys that kind of control. Thanks, Mark, for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Just having a look. So I see a good question from Jonathan, and it helps kind of explain. So yesterday at your house, you saw that the 12 outlet network on your WAP box, the network outlet was red, but you went into OvrC and it showed connected. So on your WAP boxes, you will see these status lights like you see here down at the bottom on this example. You can see an internet light right here. This internet light is not the current status of network on the WAP box. The internet light is the current status of the websites you have loaded in to auto reboot. So if it's red, that means that all the ping attempts you have loaded into the auto reboot are failing. That could mean you don't have internet control, that there's no internet in the home, but it doesn't always mean you don't have internet on that job site. So that's a key to understand there. If that light is red, the internet light is red, that means that the ping attempts for all those websites, IP addresses you have loaded in are failing. If that light is flashing green, one or more of them, but not all of them, has failed in there as well. So that's an example of where that makes sense and probably what you saw in that experience there. So guys, we're getting to the end of the questions here. I do want to follow up with one final note here, is we've been doing a lot of training outside of just the Volumetone events that Gary and these guys have been putting on here as well. And so if you have logins to snapav.com and you go to our training section and you select webinars, you're going to see a ton of webinars that we're getting ready to roll out for you guys, as well as recordings from a bunch of different ones we've been doing as well. So a very similar OvrC webinar you see here, a more in-depth WAPbox webinar, a more in-depth surveillance webinar that I put on. We even have some Control 4 specific webinars for those that use Control 4 on top of that. So we're going to keep doing stuff like this. We really appreciate you guys coming out, and I guess you can go out anywhere, sitting in your house and enjoying this with us. But if you want more, you want to learn more, please take advantage of the tools you guys have as well. It's a big deal for us to be able to have that functionality, that feature to give you those kind of controls.
Yeah, absolutely. Got it. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And Derek's right. You know, not only is there, everybody's doing it, we're all Zooming, right? But I am also hosting kind of a specific, what I'm trying to do with the Snap Locals is get our dealers to ask direct questions that might be a little bit outside the box on some of the larger Snap subjects. So and in that sense, also vendors are hitting us as well. So I am posting all of the webinars all the way through June that I'm hosting. So please go to your prospective distributors' websites. It's all posted. In fact, we created a whole new platform for you guys to look, add it to your calendars, see what's coming up. Next week, I've got QSC. I mean, it's a myriad of different topics. So definitely stay tuned with that. We're trying to keep it to Webinar Wednesdays, 9 a.m. on West Coast. So stay tuned to those. But again, guys, Derek, thank you so much. I mean, we are giving you a round of applause. You are the best.
Thanks, Gary.
With you throughout the summer. I know that there's other things in the works, and that's what we're really looking forward to as well. But from all of us, thank you, Derek and SnapAV for such accurate data and worthwhile topics here. So from all of us, again, I'm going to send out an email to all of the participants today, so you will see this link to the video itself, other links regarding OvrC, and some a quick snippet of what we have coming up on future webinars. So again, from all of us, from Volutone on the West Coast to MRI, AllNet, Custom Plus, we thank you guys so much. Derek, great job, buddy.
Thanks, Gary. We'll see you guys soon. Stay safe out there.
Bye, guys.